Thank you for viewing this innovation vlog brought to you by Prosecutors Center for Excellence and Equitas. My name is Sophia Roach, and I am joined by the State Attorney, Catherine Fernandez-Rundle, who serves Miami-Dade County, also known as Florida's 11th Judicial District. She's here to talk about several innovative programs that she has in her office supporting both prosecutors and staff. Well, tell us a little bit about Miami-Dade County, some information on population, cost of living, things like that.
As a local community, we're just under 3 million people, and we serve, there's something like 14 million people come through our airport every year, and that doesn't include our seaport. So we have seaport, airport, which are both international centers and are very busy centers. We also have the largest banking community of anywhere in the United States. That's what I'm told by our Department of Commerce. We're an office that's around 1,300 total, with lawyers that running around 350 is what our allocation is for, and our support staff's around 800. We're the only state attorney's office in Florida that also handles child support cases. So, and we do that because our philosophy is children coming into this world need all the wherewithal they can get to survive a really complicated community and world out there. And so to us, it's a form of crime prevention. I think our dilemma, our crisis, which they're calling the great retention, the great recruitment, the great resignation era that we're living in, has been also compounded and exacerbated by COVID. Then when it came time to reopen, we had the other thing that was happening at the same time as we were reopening was our real estate was on fire. Our commerce and our real estate, everything started to explode for a couple of reasons. One is COVID attracted a lot of people from northern parts of these great United States to the South. In February of 2022, all the housing and economic projections were that Miami became the #1 most expensive housing market in the United States and the 19th most expensive market in the world. But what was happening then was there was a market for law firms, because you need law firms that can deal with all those real estate transactions and the purchasing and the leasing and the buying. And while that's happening, the banking industry is booming because there's all this lending and borrowing. So our lawyers were offered a lot of money to go into private practice, and they were offered to be able to stay at home. And that's a tough offer to turn down. And I get it, but at the same time, we're a people business. We serve the people. We need to meet with our victims. We need to hear their tragedy, understand their trauma, connect them to the appropriate services. And that, can't be done all the time and always from home. It simply can't. So we then had to bring people back, and we then experienced a real resignation.
Why is it so important to have prosecutors living near where they work? I mean, why is that? How does that benefit a prosecution office?
You got to consider an hour each way to and from the office is a major concern. Number one. Number two, sometimes you get called out to homicide duty in the middle of the night. Sometimes, you're on search warrant duty. You're on all kinds of different duties. We make ourselves available to the community. And then the other thing is, it's nice to know your community, to kind of get, wow, they're talking about gun violence over here. I don't need to live in it, but I certainly want to be able to understand it, right? I want to understand what those people living under that kind of terror feel. Well, if I'm, 50 miles away, it may be a little more difficult to relate to that. So, I think also understanding the demographics of a community. Miami happens to be extremely diverse, which is one of our beautiful things. And so to live in and amongst the diversity and feel that diversity and understand the culture really helps you when you're picking a jury, for instance, or when you're talking to a victim. We can relate much better in trying to convince a victim, for instance, it's okay for you to testify.
Tell us a little bit about some of the unique things that your office has done to try and support not only prosecutors, but also staff who are working with you and who you really want to try and incentivize to be living right there in the community that they're serving.
So what I tried to do this last year is I tried to say, okay, once we approach all of this and we've changed up sort of the salary increases, what can we do about the housing market, right? So you got to do more than, you have to fight this on more than one platform. So I went and met with our local HUD representatives, which, every city has one, every state has one. I talked to them about what could they do to provide a more affordable housing or workforce housing. So I went to the local developers. I went to people who are building, and they were very responsive. Our governor and our state legislature recognized they were having similar problems everywhere else in Florida and also in law enforcement. So the governor developed something called Hometown Heroes. And the first thing I tried to do is make sure I got on that list. That's, state assistant state attorneys were on that list, and we got on that list. So that was a good thing. That was primarily for home ownership. Home ownership is something, if you stay here long enough, 7-10 years, maybe a little earlier, you can think about. But then I wanted to replicate that at the rental housing level, at the local level, right? So that same concept is what I took to the developers. And they love the idea of having assistant state attorneys in their buildings. And one of the things that we reassured them on is nobody is scrutinized more than an assistant state attorney. Background check, what kind of debt they have, character, they've got to get through the bar association. They've worked for 7 years. They have an income with us. If they don't pay their rent, they're in trouble. It's right there in the workplace with us. And they love the concept of telling potential renters, oh, we have assistant state attorneys. We have a special program for them. And they wanted to do the same thing for police and first responders as well. So with that in mind, it really turned out to be, a benefit for everybody involved. Now, a lot of the housing is coming on. We've actually gone and visited the site properties when we've actually done webinars here in the office. We send out to everyone in the office, if you need housing or you're looking to move, because this was the other thing that was happening. While they're here, they're getting notices. Your rent is going up. It's going from $2,000 to $4,000, or it's going from $1,800 to $2,800. I mean, those are the kinds of numbers a lot of the lawyers were coming to us and saying, I don't know what to do. So we had an immediate need right here, right? So take care of those that are here that are experiencing these rental increases that are insurmountable. So we did that. We got on the list with some rent subsidies. We brought the developers here. They meet online. They can do Zooms here. They've been in the office. We hand out flyers, who to call, where the buildings are. If you want to see them, here's where they are. And so that's been happening. The second thing we're doing with that, Sophia, is we're using that as a recruitment tool. So now when we recruit, we're going to be able to say, to these wonderful young new lawyers, usually, that are coming out of law school with student debt, and they may not know the housing market, and they go on the housing sites, right? We want them to know that we can help them. The other thing we did that may help some of my colleagues, parking. We're even though we have mass transportation, I would say overwhelming percentage of our employees drive here and park here. So I went to my local government, who was charging about $70 a month. And I said, they're serving, do you want them to stay in this community and you want them to work for you and protect this community and be the crime fighters and watch out for public safety for everybody? Then can you make it easier for them financially? And they did. They passed a resolution that they waived the parking for all of our employees, which was, may not sound like a lot, but for a lot of people, that's anywhere from $600 to $800 a year, which means something.
Any last words of advice for others who might be thinking about trying to start one of these partnerships?
I would say that, all of the relationships are very important that we state attorneys build over the years. And you'd be surprised if you reach out to, your law enforcement partners, your municipality partners, your local government partners, your private law firm partners. You'd be surprised how many of them will step up and they want to help. So some of the things that I do, I'm a sort of a data junkie. Data means a lot to me. It shows me proportionality, it shows me volume, it shows me trends, patterns, and I use that data. So I have all the housing market data for my community in my state. I have all of that, and visible for them. Benefits is the other thing. Sometimes they're focused on the salary and the immediate cost of rental, and they don't always fully appreciate what benefits they're getting. I will tell you that for our office, about 48% of what our lawyers get for support staff, it's a little less, comes in benefits. When they talk about leaving the office, we have a sit down and we just kind of remind them, okay, they're offering you this, but if you tried to balance that against what you're going to have to pay for on all these benefits that you weren't paying for before. So, those are some of the things that have really helped us, I think, keep people and attract people.
I really want to thank you for sharing your innovations with us and thank our viewers. If you'd like to share an innovation, please contact PCE directly at contactpce@pceinc.org. Thank you so much for your time.